Okay, welcome to the Parks and Rec meeting. It is August 18th. First, we have roll call.
Stacy Ashland.
Here.
Deidre Cromie.
Here.
Jennifer Hedderly.
Here.
Ed Lowing.
Here.
Abby Knopper. Pat Markovich.
Here.
Keith Rechtel.
Here.
Eric Filseth.
Okay. Next is agenda changes, requests, or deletions. Does anyone have any modifications? Okay, then we'll move on. Oral communications. There's no one from the public here, so we will skip over oral communications. New business, approval of draft minutes. Are there any changes of comments or corrections from last month's? Okay. Do I have a motion to
I move to approve the draft minutes.
Okay. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second? I was not here, so I will abstain.
I will abstain as well.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Next is review of the Parks, Trails, Open Space, and Recreation Facilities Master Plan. MIG is here tonight. Ellie, are you going to present?
Yeah.
So, yeah, let me just
Okay.
make an introduction here. Good to see everyone. On my own tonight because Darren Anderson is on a well-deserved vacation, and so is Peter. Peter never takes any vacation, and he had his thing with his son, and so I said, "Just go. You should do it." And so it's just me and Ellie here tonight. But we have, only one item on the agenda, and obviously relates to our Parks Master Plan project. There's two things that we hope to be able to do today. And one is the focus areas for the workshop and the survey that we're going to put out that you've seen that a few times. Thank you to the ad hoc committee that's been working with staff and MIG to refine that. And I think it's much better because of that. To finalize those 12 focus areas, and then to look at the survey, the online survey that we hope to be able to put out next week if possible, so we can gather some data for the workshops and the stakeholder meetings that we're putting together for later in September. So those are sort of two objectives for this evening, and Ellie's going to sort of walk us through both of those two items, and we'll see how we go.
And who was the ad hoc that they're looking at?
Ad hoc committee right here is Commissioner Hedderly and Lowing and Rechtel. So we've met, I think, 2 or 3 times so far. So, Ellie?
Yes. So with that, as Rob said, we just want to walk through the staff report and your packet. And as you can see, you have a red line version now of the areas of focus list that you've seen a few times. And this was done in consultation with the ad hoc, as we said, based on some input we received from you at previous meetings, and then also consultation with staff. So we wanted to float this in front of you one more time and see if you had any additional questions or comments, or if we're comfortable using these 12 to move forward, because again, these are the structure we'll use in the prioritization exercise.
It's stated here, but I just want to add, note that we added number 12, which was discussed at the end of the last meeting, to, what does it say now? Proactive approach to adding more parks and open space lands. So that came up at the last meeting with Council Filseth as well. And then we kind of changed the batting order in certain places just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And we understand that it's going to be mixed up even more when it gets to the public, so there's not any official rankings or presumed rankings, because there aren't any official rankings.
Correct, yeah.
Jen or Keith, do you have anything?
I didn't take notes at our last meeting, but I thought there were a couple that we're going to combine. Did I misremember that?
I don't remember that.
I don't know that either.
I don't think we agreed to combine any, did we? The ad hoc committee?
I do have some new comments,
Oh, okay. I think that's fine.
or I don't know if they're new or not. But I have had my say a couple of times, if anybody else wants to go first.
Nope. Okay. On number 1, improving and enhancing community center and recreation spaces across the community. I think what you're meaning here, this is in the areas of focus, is kind of maintaining and upgrading what we have, right? So my comment is about the example of replacing key facilities at Coverly. I think that could be confusing, and people might think that we mean replacing them elsewhere, but that's not really consistent with this title heading. So if that's what we mean, then we have to do, then maybe it goes in the expanding in the last focus. But I would say something like updating or upgrading instead of replacing here for that example. And I wonder if you don't want another example that's not quite as massive as that, like maybe improve connections in communities, tech connections in community centers. I don't know if there's another example that needs to go there, or if that can stand alone. So I'll leave that up to the commission. On let's see. Sorry, on page 5, I think we talked about, in the ad hoc, we talked about that example of signs illustrating exercises that can be completed using existing features was not something that came up during the public outreach. So we preferred to have that last on the, or later in that listing of things. And on trails, I'd make it loop trails as opposed to just trails to and from a park. I think what we meant there was loop trails within a
Which
park.
item was that? Could you-
I'm sorry, on number 5, increasing health and wellness opportunities in parks.
That's
You
old,
said page 5.
that's old 5.
I'm sorry.
Can you go to the red line version?
Can you
Yeah.
put it onto this
That's
version?
number 6 now, Jennifer.
Oh,
You're like confusing us.
this is it.
That's the
Okay.
batting order change.
I'm sorry. Number 6.
Number 6.
So, 5,000 different versions.
Page
of this
4,
thing.
number 6.
Page 2, number 6.
Page 2, number 6? Yes. Ah.
Sorry. Okay, then the next one is page 2, number 8, integrating nature into Palo Alto parks. This is one we kept struggling with, I think, every time we've talked about it. And I think the problem I keep coming back to is, as it's written now, it's really about integrating nature into our neighborhood parks. But we don't really have anything in the whole list about nature in open spaces. And I wonder if we can't combine that into this by calling it something like, calling it the same thing, but saying preserving, enhancing, and providing access to nature in parks and open spaces, and then adding as the first example, protecting delicate ecosystems, then followed by creating bird habitat islands. I don't know if native plantings really count as integrating nature or not. You all can debate that,
I
maybe you
have a
just throw.
comment on this, maybe I can chime now.
Let me make sure I don't have any more on that one.
Okay.
And, yeah, okay, you can chime in.
I really like your suggestion, Commissioner Heatherly. I also was not sure about this. I like native planting, plantings. But I was wondering also if, in addition to bird habitat, I don't know if we should say islands, or I wanted to say bird, bee, and butterfly habitat, because that's what we hear is missing. It's really those three, the B cubed, birds, bees, and butterflies. So creating habitat for birds, bees, and butterflies. I don't know if we need to say islands. I'd rather include those other insects in that. So I just wanted to say that was language I wanted to add in there.
That's fine.
But I like what you suggested as well.
Okay. Then,
Can you repeat the first part that you said? So protecting, I didn't catch
so
it.
it's preserving, enhancing, and providing access to nature in parks and open space, period. For example, protecting delicate ecosystems would be the first one, followed by creating bird, bee, and butterfly habitat, comma, and then I had swapped educational signage because that had come up for drought-tolerant plants, but I don't feel strongly about that. And then finally, creating access to creeks in or adjacent to parks.
Okay.
And I would chime in, I think it's really important to have the native plantings.
Okay.
I don't care if it says drought resistant or not, but I just think the native plantings are very important.
Great. Improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities, number 9, same page. The last sentence, for example, adapting existing programming for people with physical disabilities or investing in targeted programs. I wonder if I struggled with this area of focus when we got into the elements, because it seems to focus on programming. I didn't know if you wanted to include facilities and programming or just programming. Once you include facilities, then I think you have some overlap with other areas of focus, so I don't know if you want to do that or not. And then on number 12, page 3, I would just rephrase it to be a little bit more clear what kind of future purchases we're talking about. So I would delete for future purchase and insert to purchase land for future parks or recreation facilities.
Can you repeat your replacement?
To purchase land for future parks or recreation facilities.
Okay.
Now that, of course, limits it for purchases a little broader, but I don't know if anyone else has an opinion about that.
Well, I definitely want to have the sense that this also includes community gardens. So I don't know if that falls into future parks and recreation.
I think that falls into increasing variety of things to do, or no?
But that's not, that's like, that one has to do with targeting an existing park. This has to do with, we don't know, we might need more space for other things. So I just didn't want to limit it unless you think.
I think community gardens could fit under parks or recreation facilities.
It could fit
I
on
guess,
either
because
one, I
gardening
think.
is a recreation. Okay, as long as we think it can fit, I'm fine with it.
It's under our purview, and we're the Parks and Rec, so I would say
Yeah.
that this parks and recreation facilities would be interpreted in the broadest sense.
Exactly. As long as we think that's the case, I'm totally happy with it. And I like that change.
Okay. So those are, yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Jen, you started, I think you were working off the document that was in the packet, and that's our fault, by the way. You should have had the red line in the packet. You didn't, so sorry about that confusion. But, so I didn't catch your first one, because I was looking at the red line, and you were, I think, working off the other one. So I just want to be sure I got it.
First
Yeah,
one
number 6.
was on, you mean on number 1?
Yeah, it was 1 or 2, but
It was number 1. Wait, which is
On the
now
red
number
line?
2.
Which is now number 2.
It was number
Okay.
2. And I just was suggesting that we swap updating for replacing. So instead of replacing key facilities at Cubberley, we're updating them,
okay.
just to avoid the confusion that you might be,
Replacing them offsite.
right.
Got it, okay.
I had a question for Commissioner Cromie. You were talking about the native plantings. And is this native plantings for the plant purposes or to support native creatures?
It's to support native creatures. They tend to have adapted to native plants.
Okay,
So I think.
we should make sure that the wording includes the native creature support, if that's what you're driving at.
Do we need to specify that, do you think? It's already a very long sentence. It's on the nature one.
But if the purpose is that you're worried about the native creatures, then we should make sure that that's in there.
Okay, increasing native plantings for habitat. So you can put in habitat. Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I had a comment on, Commissioner Heatherly addressed all of mine except on number 6.
Could you do the page number, please?
I'm talking about number 6, it's on page 2 on the red line version. So it's areas of focus, number 6, page 2.
Got it.
So, I hope I got the right one, yes, I did. I personally don't like the use of loop trails. I like trails because it's more general. And I think loop trails are a subset of trails, and I know that in some of our stakeholders that are really concerned about animal habitat have a sensitivity toward loop trails because they tend to have a greater impact. And so I personally have learned from that viewpoint that dead-end trails going into a place and maybe stopping and looking at something also serve a real purpose. So I wanted to have it general. Personally, so I don't know if we should debate it as a commission.
That's fine with me. I'm not gonna follow my sword over loop trails. That's good.
Okay, great. So in other words, I like it the way it is for number 6.
I think the genesis of that was on the survey, people did say that they wanted loop trails.
Loop trails came out
That was
very high.
something that people
They're
triggered
looking
on,
for.
But isn't that a subset of trails? Do you think
Yeah.
we're gonna ignore those? I don't think so.
I'm happy leaving it trails. And then down the road, between the park staff and us, we'll determine whether we want loop trails or whether we want dead ends.
Right, I mean, we
But-
put a lot of them in Bixby Park, and we had to then step back and try, I mean, that's also my perspective, is that we kind of went overboard in the last park we did this with.
Okay, thank you.
I know we've worked a lot on number 8, on the red line. I'm wondering, that we add increased bird to say birds, bees, and butterflies, but if we're talking about wildlife, it seems more inclusive to just say habitat and plantings and native plantings for wildlife. Or native wildlife might be, I'm not an expert in that area, but it seems more general to use that word. And possibly in the tail end of that sentence, creating access to creeks. I wondered if creeks was just one example, and if we wanted to be broader to say creeks, natural elements such as creeks. And I don't, it's not really necessary to say in or adjacent to parks, because the whole report is about parks. But I think creeks are just one example of natural elements there.
So other elements would be like rock formations or something like that, or?
I feel like there would be, it could be, you know.
The bay or other kinds of water.
Yeah, I just felt
Okay.
that there would, that probably there would be other types, and I didn't want to just say creeks if we really, that is obviously a really big, important one. And then on the following one, on number 9.
So I want to go back to that one.
Okay,
You're requesting that we get rid of creeks or just say natural features such as creeks?
I think natural elements such as creeks, or
Okay.
including creeks would be more an inclusive statement. And on number 9, following one, right now it reads improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities. I think it might be more inclusive to say improving access to nature and recreation activities, or full range of, you know, right now it's just recreation opportunities, and it doesn't include access to nature.
Can you elaborate on that more?
For example,
Is it the headline that
the
you're having
headline or the
trouble
copy?
yeah, it's the title, it feels limited.
So outdoor activities in nature aren't recreational activities?
Oh, in the description?
In the title.
I'm reading the red line, and it says, number 9, improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities.
Right. I think outdoor nature experiences are included in recreation opportunities, in the full range of recreation
I guess to me, when I read recreation opportunities, I think inside a facility. It doesn't sound to me like it implies nature. Outdoors, it doesn't seem like it implies outdoors. It seems like access to recreation is, there's a ramp or an elevator, but not necessarily outdoor activities as well. Recreation to me, that's what it implies. I mean, it's just, I'm open to that if you disagree, but my perception of it makes me think a rec facility, an indoor rec facility.
Well, when you read the description, it says,
Parks and
it does say you can enjoy parks. Do you want to say parks, I wonder if we can just put open space into that description.
I mean,
Is there something?
the reason I thought maybe access to nature and recreation opportunities in the title would make more sense, because when I went through the survey myself, I didn't, you know, and I think the way people typically go through the surveys themselves is they scan quickly over the descriptions, but they're really making their priority decisions based on the title.
I think the
Is
full
it-
range of recreation opportunities is fully inclusive of everything.
Is it, what if we say parks and recreation opportunities? Is that too much then?
That's fine.
I think that's good,
Yeah.
because then I don't have a sense that it's indoor.
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is just my perception that that's what comes to mind when I see rec. And in the example, I would remove the word physical in front of disabilities, because it says adapting existing programming for people with, whereas things like ramps are the most common accommodation that's already available, but if we're improving our access, then I would just say disabilities blanket statement, because there's lots of other accommodations that aren't physical. 90% of the disabilities are not physical.
Okay.
So that is, like, that would be a better example if it were without that word. And that's it.
Commissioner Markovich.
Okay, on page 1, number 2, I'd like to add something. Maintaining a mix of programmable space for indoor sports, including gyms and fitness, as well as gatherings, classes, theater, and community programs. Because we have 2 theaters in this town that we use for classes and for live performances that are not being spelled out in here. And while they don't fall under our purview, they do fall under the recreation element. So I want to make sure that theater is in there so it doesn't get lost.
Commissioner Lowy, do you have any comments?
I'm good.
I'm good. Do you have any questions for us on this, or do you want to move on to the next topic? Or?
I think we can move on. That was very helpful, thank you.
I was just, maybe, just to back to Commissioner Markovich's point, theater, if we put theater, we probably should put arts, I think,
Oh, what
arts
about
and theater or something.
Performing arts? Or is that too?
No,
Arts is good, arts and
or arts, yeah, performing and visual
performing.
arts or something. Yeah, so that it's inclusive of both the visual
Are
and
you happy
performing.
with arts by itself, or do you want theater?
Because it's true, we do have lots of, we do have theater,
Theater and
theaters,
arts.
but we also have arts in our recreation facilities.
I would say theater and arts because they
Okay.
are not one and the same.
Okay,
And
okay.
you can have art, you can have theater, and they can combine, but not always.
Okay, so moving on to the online prioritization challenge. I believe this link all went out to you this week, but I did want to give a quick run through of how it looks and how it works and get your feedback on the exercise itself. Again, with the hope that we can get it online and start promoting it next week, and then it would be up for about a month, going a little bit past our proposed community workshop date in September. So just briefly, there's an introduction.
Ellie, on the prior pages, are the comments that we sent to Peter going to be received in time before launch?
Sure. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Is there something you commented on that you didn't see reflected?
Prioritization.
Oh, yeah, that would be a good one.
But I sent him a couple of suggestions, and as long as they're, will be received.
Yeah,
by
there's
then,
plenty of
that's great.
time to code all of this.
Great.
So thank you for pointing that out.
So Ellie, I have some comments on the areas of focus that fall under each element.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to go through this first and then?
Yeah, let me do a run through just so we have the big picture, and I think the power on this laptop might run out at some point. But this is the introduction, and the idea is that every person's given 25 virtual dollars, and we're forcing them to make some decisions about how they would spend them. And we've structured the areas of focus by the 3 elements that we've been working with, so parks, trails, and open spaces, recreation facilities, and recreation programs. And so for each of those 3, the first exercise is basically people are given $5, and I believe there's 6 areas of focus within each. And so that was intentional that you would get fewer dollars than there are options because we want to force some decisions. We want to force people to prioritize and give something a 0 essentially. Otherwise, we could end up with, equal votes on every single option. And some of these are across the 3, some of them are repeated where we thought they were applicable across the 3 elements. We can discuss that further. So essentially you're repeating this exercise 3 times with $5. And then the final is sort of the second layer prioritization exercise is the whole list of 12 and you get $10. And on this last page, we didn't want to overwhelm people with text, so we hid the descriptions, but if you want to read them again, you just click unhide, and then here's that full list of 12, and then here they are again. And so you can do any combination of dollars. Right now it's set up to do whole dollars. We can break that into cents if we want to go there, but the system will just not allow you to spend more than 555 and then 10 for the total of 25. And then the last screen is simply an open-ended comment field, and then sign up for our email list. So that's the big picture. So I don't know if you have comments either on the content or as the usability as you went through it, or anything else.
I mean, one of the comments that I had was, when I came through, I had $3 left, and I wanted to split it equally between two. And so I thought, it wasn't bad. It forced me to go back and look and say, well, if I have to give an extra $1 to one of these, which one do I have to give it to? And so it worked out for me, but my gut instinct when I ranked them was that the $5 did not give me enough resolution. But I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to advocate changing that 5 to 10 to get more resolution, or whether we like it. And one of the things that's nice about the $5 is that it forces you to have some zeros.
I did dollars and cents, and it took it just fine.
It did.
Really?
You broke the system.
I tried to do dollars and cents, and it wouldn't
Yeah?
let me.
Well, it's because she did it first and broke it.
Yeah. So I'm curious what other people's thoughts are. Do you like the coarseness of having $5 for 6 items
Yes.
and forcing zeros?
Yes.
I have even a broader question. I actually had quite a negative reaction to the idea of this being dollars, and particularly 5, because I think folks are going to start to take it literally and think about this as, you know, the Parks and Recreation budget. I mean, not that it's $5, but I think they're going to be thinking more, well, what can I get for a small amount of money and get a lot of stuff accomplished? And obviously, as we've said many times before in this setting, is that if we need a $20 million something 20 years from now, we have to start planning for it now, and if there isn't money for that, it doesn't matter. We got to figure out a way to make it happen. So I'm concerned that there's going to be, I don't want to say confusion, but it's going to get so focused on the amount you have to spend that it's not going to get as much actual, what do we really need over the next 20 years, not the next 2 years. So I'd welcome my colleagues' comments on that.
So you would prefer points instead of dollars, or?
A weighting system, yeah, that isn't specifically monetary.
I liked pennies better than dollars, kind of for that reason. Just gave me a different feeling when I was doing it. Dollars made it feel more like
How about points?
dollars.
I liked the dollar analogy. I found it was fun and simple. The only thing is it doesn't say the word virtual, and so my first glance I thought, oh, is this like an incentive for doing this, or an actual $25? So, but I did think that was a very fun, approachable way of prioritizing.
I think
I
it,
like the 5.
you like the
Like the
five?
5.
I think its point about the next 20 years is really important, and there should be something up front about as we're planning for the next 20 years. This isn't just what should we do first, or in the next year, or if you had $5 to spend today, would you
Right.
spend it on this?
Okay, that's a good point. And we could, I appreciate, you know, the idea that it should be more abstract, and I think we've been talking about the pennies in a jar exercise for a while now, and I think that's where it started, and then we just kind of rounded up to dollars. But we could also name them something like Palo Alto bucks, or something that makes it sound like more of a game piece or a point system than a monetary amount.
And when I brought this one up because I remember an award that an East Bay city had received when they were going through budget cuts, and they had pennies, and it was penny for your thoughts, and they had this whole sort of theme around it. The idea was it was specifically because there are limited resources, and that's why, you know, they used money, but it was pennies, so it wasn't quite as, you know, real in some way, I guess, and so how you react to it. I prefer pennies too, just by the way. I think it's a little easier, a little more fun even.
Cents too, partial pennies.
Oh yeah, you cut partial cents.
That's true.
Right. How do you do that?
500 pennies.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that people are going to think about, what's this really going to cost if we do X versus Y, and that just could distort it. And obviously, we're just trying to take out any possible distortion to just get true votes of feelings from the community.
Don't you think costs should be, people should be thinking about costs to some extent when they're thinking about?
I don't know that the public should be, because they don't know what some of these things cost, and that's just because they're not involved in it. I mean, what we saw at the dog parks, last public outreach, there wasn't sort of an awareness of how much fencing would cost to put up, multiple parks and so on. So I'm not sure there's enough knowledge there to be voting real dollars like you have to do with the budget.
Yeah.
But it's not real dollars, it is
Right.
just prioritization. I mean, it's just, the dollar is just a metaphor in this case.
What I would think is if they really thought this was important, this was the biggest need, then they would put all 5 pennies or all $5 in that. Because it's not real dollars, it's not, it could be $20 million really what that's going to cost.
Yeah, I think maybe what Commissioner Hadley suggested would be helpful is, up front say, you can weight really important things that way.
Yeah.
Because this is a plan for 20 years from now, and I don't know if you have to go to details about, we can raise an extra bond measure or something like that. But
Yeah.
I don't think
We'll
so.
get there.
I don't think so.
I think we can add a couple sentences that accomplish both kind of emphasizing that it's hypothetical dollars, and then also, as you said, kind of talking about the whole planning horizon, and not that this is.
And just say it's a
fiscal
weighting
year.
exercise, not purely a budget exercise. That's a way to calculate.
But the
Although
thing that's nice,
I still vote for pennies instead of dollars, I agree with that.
the thing that's kind of nice is that people do have that experience of going into a store with a limited amount of cash and saying, what should I buy? So having something, whether pennies or dollars, does kind of relate to, that's the issue. Is if we had infinite budget, half these problems would not be there. Part of this is due to our limited budget.
Well, I don't think they're gonna think that $5 is real budgetary dollars, because it's so small that it seems clear that it's a metaphor for prioritization.
I agree that I actually get turned off by pennies somehow. It just seems
Like the
silly
dollars?
to me. Pennies, I don't know, dollars, I agree with Commissioner Ashland that no one really thinks that buys anything that was on this list.
What's it do to the survey if you do a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
I think it makes it
I
less
like
interesting
Vermont.
to fill out.
Yeah.
It adds a little bit of a fun component too, I think, and just as Commissioner Rechdel said, that people are used to evaluating how they spend their resources and money, and just thinking about it a little bit in that way, I think adds value to the experience of filling out the survey, recognizing that you can't fund everything that we want.
The thing I don't like about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is that if there's one thing that's head and shoulders above everything, you want to be able to put it all in on one and say, this is really important to me.
Yeah, right.
Or in converse, if something's not important to me, I can zero it out. I don't have to give it a
Right.
1.
You
I
can
can
have
give
5
it a
and
hard 0.
4 zeros.
Or give 2 of them a hard 0.
That's a good point.
I have a whole pile of comments on this.
Okay,
On this,
But I can
on this
put my
page.
so
Well, I don't think we have any consensus here on this. It doesn't seem like it. Pennies, dollars, points, and different opinions on it.
It seems like, is anyone here in favor of points? So it seems like and are you,
I could be, but
if it was versus dollars, is what you're saying?
I don't think it's a major point. We just want to make sure that we get the right results. I'm not arguing about whether they're
yeah, I think if we say,
drachma or shekels. We're just trying to get
Chips?
sort of,
as long as we say virtual
Chips,
or
yeah.
hypothetical dollars, I think people will get the drift that this is a point system. But I do like the concept because a lot of these things are budgetary, and so if you are applying priorities, you're applying priorities on a budget level, so dollars I don't think is misleading.
that's exactly why I brought it up. Because if we really need something that costs $10 million, then we need to figure out a way to get that. If that's going to be something that, say, senior citizens need 15 years from now, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, it's a big deal, but we have to make sure we solve for that need, even though it's the most expensive thing on the list. Totally making this up, this is hypothetical, but I wouldn't want folks to say, well, let's pick a few cheap things because I know we can afford that. That's the distortion that I'm concerned about in the survey.
But the money's left out of it. The 5 random dollars or points that they're distributing, I mean, there is no mention of budget. Are you concerned that that they should know budgets to make decisions?
No. No, I'm saying they should just do a weighting system without regards to budget. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, it is, I mean, the budget's irrelevant. When I have $5 to play with and I put 2 or 3 here or 2 or, you know, I am weighting it, right? I say this is more important, so I'm putting more of my money here, and this is less important, so I'm putting less or 0 here.
I don't think we need to go to the mat on this one. I was just
Yeah,
raising
yeah,
concern
yeah.
for
I-
discussion, so.
So are we sticking with the $5? Show of hands?
With upfront copy to describe the weighting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hypothetical dollars, weighted exercise. Okay.
I don't have strong feelings of pennies versus dollars, but I think having some type of currency unit would probably be a good thing.
The thing about the dollars is you can then do the, $1.50 for, if you get stuck on the end, you can split it up. It's a little hard with pennies to do that, right? People won't naturally.
What's that problem splitting it up? I don't
With,
see.
if it's pennies, it's hard.
No, but I'm saying, why can't you say $1.50?
That's what he's
You
saying.
can.
He's saying that's the benefit of the
Oh, you're saying that's
dollars.
good, okay, I agree
Yeah,
with that.
that's a
I
good
actually
thing.
like that, right. But one of you said I didn't get to do it, but one of you said, I think we should be able to use dollars and cents. That it
Yeah.
should be designed to accept
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we'll have to check it, because when Keith tried it, it didn't work, and when Jen
Oh, you
tried
tried
it,
it, it
did.
wouldn't take it.
It wouldn't take it.
Oh, okay.
Money's no good here.
Or maybe it was limited to 3 characters. I tried to do 1.50 and it wouldn't get that 0, and so maybe
That's what I did too. But I didn't submit it.
I didn't either.
I just went to the next page. It let me go to the next
Okay.
page.
It wouldn't get all my characters in there.
We'll double check. It should be coded
Okay.
too.
Possible
Either
also.
way, if looking for.
Yeah,
it.
browser
Browser
dependent.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is using IE, so maybe there was some issues.
Okay?
Okay. Did you have any more to talk about here, or do we want to move on to?
No, I think we can move on to other comments.
Okay,
I have
Commissioner
something here.
Heatherly gets first crack at this.
So on this page, I would add at the end of that first paragraph, for more information about the master plan process and what we've learned so far, click here to go to the
Okay,
website.
That's good.
That's
You're
very
saying on this page that would, up
Yes.
on the screen right now?
At the end of the first paragraph.
Okay.
I would say on the end of the second paragraph, where will you spend your money? I'd say will you invest your money, but that's a word choice.
I think
On
that's good too.
the introduction page, I had a lot of comments. Starting with the third paragraph, I thought this was a little, I don't know what I thought it was. I didn't like it. Some alternatives for this third paragraph in each of these elements.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, we're going to make recommendations in a variety of areas, and these are the areas, I'd say for each of these elements, we've identified areas of focus that generally describe types of goals, investments for that element. And then go on to say, these areas of focus are drawn from earlier input, blah, 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 blah. And I can give
Can you
these to
email
you
me? Yeah, that'd be
offline
great.
too.
I like that.
I'm just saying them, so if other folks don't like them, we can not do it. The last sentence I would replace entirely with, your input will help us evaluate how much emphasis to give each area of a focus as we begin to prioritize recommendations for future projects, programs, and investments. I was worried as I read this that it was going to create confusion about what's an area, what's a focus, what's an element. So I wanted to be a little more clear about what
Yeah,
each
I
thing
agree.
was.
Thank you.
And then for the next paragraph, for this challenge, before you go to each element, I'd insert, you will be asked to allocate limited resources among the various areas of focus. And then a new sentence, each element will be explored, blah, 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 blah. And that was all I had on the page. So then, my next issues were about the areas of focus under each element. Keith, should I go on to that?
Yep, please do.
Under parks, trails, and 15 documents there. Parks, trails, and open space. I think it's important to include area number I'll change number 5, increasing the variety of things to do in existing parks for all ages and abilities. I think
What
that,
page on this?
I'm on
handout?
page 4, project where it's prioritization by element, page 4 of the red line. Under that first element, parks, trails, and open space,
Okay.
I want to talk about which
Oh, you're back
6
to
or
that.
7
Oh,
areas of focus.
okay,
you
so
want-
the red
should be
line, you're
included.
on this red
Yeah.
line,
And you'd like to add back number 5.
See on page what?
I thought this was the only document people were looking at. I'm on page 4.
Okay.
Okay, so I think increasing the variety of things to do in existing parks for all ages and abilities that's crossed out should stay. And maybe remove improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities. I think there's overlap between those two. And I was torn about where to put them because I wanted to add in improve,
Page.
oh, no, that's the one I wanted to re-add number 5, which puts us to 7 instead of 6. So in that context, I thought we could eliminate improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities because we have all ages and abilities in the increased variety of things
Okay,
topic.
I see.
Sorry,
Okay.
the way my brain's working today. And then under recreation facilities, I think we have to add in number 4, area of focus number 4, distributing park activities and experiences across the city. Because that's where we get into community gardens, pools, and that kind of thing, which
You're inserting this into number 2?
I wanted to add it to recreation and facilities
Okay.
as a 7th item. And again, with the same question of, can we eliminate 9 since we have 5 in that section? Is everybody with me?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
makes
amazing.
sense so far.
Why don't you just make sure you restate number 4 that you want to put in.
Okay, so the one I want to add to recreation facilities is distributing park activities and experiences across the city.
Okay.
Because that's about distribution, it's not just about parks, it's distribution of everything, right? So I think that needs to appear in both of those.
Okay.
Then, oh, basically the same comment under recreation programs. I think distributing, that number 4, distributing activities and experiences across the city should appear in all 3 elements. And for the recreation programs, I think number 5 and number 11 have a lot of overlap. So I would get rid of number 5 and maybe change 11 to trying out new types of programs, classes, events, and activities for all ages and abilities.
Can you say that one more time?
So number 11, I would just add for all ages and abilities at the end of number 11, if we were to take out number 5. Because I think that covers.
Reference back to here. So we should change that as the title for the area of focus for number 11. Ages and ability.
Yeah, I have a issue with number 5. I mean, the title of it, the difference between 5 and number 9, there is some overlap there, but the thing I don't like is that the title, at least to me, for all ages and abilities, kind of echoes what number 9 is. If we deleted that phrase for all ages and abilities in the title, would that make it more representative? So you're just saying increasing the variety of things to do in existing parks, period.
But we had that added to, if we're taking out improving access. So what Commissioner Heatherly recommended was under Parks, Trail, and Open Space, if we take out number 9, if we're taking out that, I think we have to comment on abilities, probably.
I think so.
Because access really implies that. So Commissioner
agree.
Rectal, are you agreeing that one of them can be, are you saying you also want to leave number 9? Or do you agree that we can remove number 9 and edit number 5? They were, sort of, the comment was linked.
I mean, if we go back to the list of the 12, do we really need 5 and 9? Can we combine them into a single one?
That's what Commissioner Heatherly recommended.
Oh, for
No, that's not what I'm recommending.
Oh, wait,
For the, she's
For
talking
which-
about the sub-listing.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm now confused. I thought I was tracking with you. I thought under Parks, Trails, and Open Space, you, Commissioner Heatherly, wanted to remove number 9 and leave number 5.
I do, but
From
I
the
don't want to
sublist.
eliminate number 9 altogether from the whole list of 12.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's what I assumed.
Okay.
So can you present your idea again, because I.
Okay, so if we go back to the list of 12, in the ideal world, 12, I think, would not be the number I would pick. Say, how many numbers, if we want to have our focus, areas of focus, what would be an appropriate number of area of focus? I would not pick 12. But now, when you're looking at this, are there any combined? And 5 and 9 does have some overlap there. We're talking about having, well, I guess 5 is parks, 9 is recreation. But we're trying to support things for everybody. We want to remove access, we want to do a variety of things, not just the same old.
I think 5 is parks and facilities, having the spaces that can accommodate a variety of things, whereas 9 is much more about programming, so that we have programming that can accommodate people with different physical, programmatic language, and financial situations. That's the way I was looking.
I think even if it got down from 12 to 11, that's not material, so I'm not
No.
sure it's worth fighting for.
11 isn't as nice a number in a way. You'd have to get it down to 10, and then we'd really be struggling.
It's that odd number thing.
Yeah, I think, well, most lists aren't like 11. I don't know, it's not that big of a deal, but I kind of agree that by eliminating it from 12 to 11, does that help you, Commissioner Rectal?
It's not a silver bullet, to me, this list is long, and I'm trying to say, is there a way of simplifying it so people who are doing this don't get overwhelmed? And I agree, it's not 100% overlap between the two, but there is some segment in the Venn diagram, there is a little overlap there.
I think it's more manageable in the survey when it's split up. You don't see all 12 all the time. And you see it, you just see 6, right? When you're thinking about parks, trails, and open space, and then 6 with recreation facilities, and then you see them all at the end, but
I think that is the benefit of having it split up
Yeah.
first, so you don't ever see the full list until you've already
Right.
mastered what they are.
that helps, right? I think it helps a lot, yeah.
Oh, that's true. I agree with that. That if you take little nibbles, then. So Commissioner Heatherly, can you go through and just list the numbers that you want in each of the
Yeah,
3?
I have to compare because I have different lists.
Oh,
So for parks, trails, and open space, I want to keep I want to have
these
number.
are using red line numbers?
Here, I wrote your notes,
So I got it. Okay.
because I took
Sorry.
notes on what you said.
Number 3, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 8, and number 12 are what I want to have in the first element.
So you are eliminating 9
Right,
and adding in 5.
right.
And then recreation facilities?
Recreation facilities, I'd like to see number 1, number 2, number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 4.
So we're getting rid of 9 and adding 4.
Yeah.
And
then
with the edit, there's still that, oh, I see, it's, okay.
edit
that's
is
fine.
later.
Yeah.
So then under recreation programs, I would do number 2, number 5.
You said before you want to get rid of that one. No?
Hang on.
Yeah, you eliminated it.
Yeah, I want to get rid of that one. Yes, thank you. Number 2, number 6,
Add 4.
number 9, add 4, number 9, number 10, and number 11, adding for all ages and abilities at the end of 11. Thanks.
Okay, so this last one, we are getting rid of 5 and adding 4.
And then there's an edit on 11.
Yeah, so wherever 11 shows up, we would need to add that additional.
Right.
Including the whole list.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good.
Then I think I just had some final wordsmithy stuff. Should I go ahead with that, Keith?
Yes.
Okay. On the, on your first element, on every element, when you say you have $5 to allocate across the
Hypothetical.
6 areas, you want to make sure it's the right number of areas and that they're in the same order as they were presented in the descriptions.
Above, yeah.
And I would call it areas of focus. Always say areas of focus, otherwise people may do the same thing we did and say what's an area and what's an area of focus. After that first sentence, I would move up the first sentence in the bottom part, but change it a little bit. So it would read, you have $5 to allocate across the following 6 areas of focus, period. The dollars and cents you allocate, assuming we're going to allow them to do cents, to an area of focus represent the portion of the available resources you would like directed to that particular area. And then the second paragraph would start with, you can distribute money in any way you'd like, but the sum of your responses cannot exceed the available budget. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. And then my last thing is on the back, under final thoughts. I have 2 questions here. The first is the easier one. You ask if you'd like to be added to the notification list for the in-person prioritization workshop. Why would we want people who took the survey online to be invited to join the workshop? It seems like then we're inviting duplicative input.
Well, we can't exclude them.
We can't exclude them, but why would we actively recruit them
Right.
if we already have their input? That's my question.
Yeah, we could make it more general if you'd like to be added to the notification list for workshops and updates.
Can you talk about what's going to happen at the workshops? Do you have that planned out yet, or?
Yeah, it's essentially a parallel exercise, but using worksheets instead of what's in front of you now.
But it'll be mimicking what was online.
Exactly.
I would leave that off. I mean, I wouldn't invite it. They're gonna know, they're gonna hear about the meetings, the public.
Yeah, maybe if you want updates
Updates.
on the parks.
Yeah,
Or
just
just
delete
leave it at updates.
Okay.
Yeah.
if you want to be on the list for future updates on the plan. And then the final thing I was struggling with was, as you guys, Ellie, have been telling us all along, as soon as you give examples, then you raise issues of, well, I don't like that example, but I like this example. What I want isn't listed in the examples, so what does that mean? I'm not going to get what I want. I wonder if we can add something in this final thoughts section that says, it's tricky offering survey questions with hypothetical examples, if a particular example gave you pause, though you would otherwise strongly support that area of a focus, feel free to elaborate in the space below.
That,
I know you hate that.
it's kind of, it's sort of the lawyer in you in a way, you know. I think it's really good thinking, but I think it will confuse people potentially.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, then alternatively, I would suggest
Can you move
that
to where
we,
we're talking about right now so we can see what the exact language is right now?
And it's also on the last page of our handouts, from what I understand.
Oh.
But don't worry, we don't have to tabulate that. They have to tabulate that, so.
so my alternative suggestion would be to throw it up at the beginning somewhere when you talk about how we're going to ask them to allocate limited resources among various models. We've provided hypothetical examples.
Lawyering again.
I am.
It's adding a layer of complexity that some people might just give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Keep
don't
it
want to
simple.
hold their hand and say, don't worry if all your stuff isn't on here, this is just hypothetical.
But that's what the last sentence is.
That's
If you
what-
have any other, I
Yeah.
can't read it because it's.
If you would like,
Yeah.
use a space below for other ideas, comments, or questions about the parks, trails, open space, and recreation master plan.
I like it.
And in my experience, whenever you give an open-ended opportunity, people are gonna put in whatever their pet project is or whatever their number one idea is, regardless of how you phrase it. So I think we will get that out of this.
But are they going to just read, if they read their first area of focus and they think bathrooms are the worst investment the city could possibly make, but they would love to have drinking water in every park? Are they going to say, forget it, this stupid survey, I'm not even going to answer this because their options force me to vote for something that I don't want to vote for? If you give them a little blurb at the beginning that says the examples are just
Illustrative.
examples
And you will have space at the end to,
to comment,
Yes.
Yeah. I
then
think
maybe they
previewing the
will
open-ended.
do the survey instead of saying, stupid city people.
That makes sense. Well, they may still say that, but that makes sense, what
Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner Rick also, yeah.
Cool, I'm good with that.
Okay.
And then we'll also leave the comment space, so you just want a qualifier,
Right.
an explanation.
Yeah,
a hand
up front
holder.
is better, a hand holder,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, that's it. Thank you for indulging me.
okay, other comments?
Yeah, if I captured this all correctly, I'm a little bit worried, and I think I don't want to lose the accessibility from some of these areas. So I like the deletions and the additions that you did in the groupings, Commissioner Heatherly, but on the Parks, Trails, and Open Space grouping, we've eliminated accessibility altogether from that grouping by removing number 9.
We still have number 5. We've added back in number 5.
Which is, yeah,
But we cut off the tail end of number 5's.
No.
no.
We left it
They
off.
scoffed at that suggestion, so.
Oh, you kept it there.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, what's redlined in that first section, number 5, will be reinstated as written.
So if I understood correctly, the changes that Commissioner Harderly suggested, the phrase "all ages and abilities" appears in each element, but the word "access" does not necessarily.
Well, okay, then I've lost track a little bit, because if we remove number 9 from that first grouping, the improving access to the full range of recreation opportunities, it seems like it would fit really well in number 3, enhancing comfort and making parks more, instead of just more welcoming, more accessible and welcoming. It seems like it would fit well in there. And I don't think that's
I
really,
think that's an
But-
order of magnitude different from what it currently is.
than the description.
Yeah,
Yeah, the description's talking about bathrooms and stuff like that,
bathrooms and water fountains.
and shade.
Also, when you think about it, Commissioner Ashland, do you want to, if someone's coming to the survey and they really want more access for people with disabilities, do you think they would, because these are votes, it comes down to voting, right? So do you think they would vote for number 5 as written or not? What do you think? Do you think it has to be rewritten?
I think the word accessibility is really key, and all the shade and water and bathrooms that you have, if it's not accessible, it's not accessible, it's not welcoming to a large percentage of the community. So I think that's a disservice to lose that word in the groupings. I wouldn't feel comfortable saying, these are our 6 proposals for each of these 3 areas, and we've eliminated the word access from the first grouping, from the second grouping, and we've only left it in the third grouping. That's the only place. That feels really limiting to me, really unwelcoming as a city.
So what does access mean to you?
Well, if it's facilities, if it's outdoor or indoor facilities, it's physical access, it's stairways, it's ramps, it's hearing. But if it's programming, a lot of times it's staffing and training. So is the staff or is the staff not willing to make accommodations based on disability? So, I mean, I think it's a really clear word, it's part of the law, so that's why it would feel really bad to me to lose it from these other 2 groupings and saying
The thing that concerns me is that if you add accessibility now and when people vote for it, are they voting for bathrooms or are they voting for accessibilities?
Well, then maybe that, yeah.
And
So
maybe they're voting
that's-
for accessibilities and we interpret that as they want bathrooms.
Well, no, I see what you're saying about that maybe it doesn't fit into number 3. But it worries me to omit number 9 without making sure that we're saying that word somewhere that it's an important part of the groupings. And unless it needs to go back to the description of number 3 and say, it's a given that we're including that.
How about, can we add access, the word access to number 5? Can we put it in there somehow?
Well, the problem with number 5 is that's increasing the variety of things to do. That says, so maybe our parks and facilities aren't accessible, but we're not going to worry about that. But if we increase the variety, then we're going to worry about it from that point forward. So that doesn't feel like it fits in with number 5 to me.
Like the way number 5 it means to me is have more, we now have that beautiful magical bridge park, for instance. I would like to see the most popular, successful elements of that park replicated in all parks across the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, that would go under number 5, correct? Am I thinking correctly?
Yeah, for playgrounds.
For playgrounds, making things accessible.
But since we're talking parks, recs, open space, trails, we're talking more than just playgrounds.
So we're missing the programmatic piece, is what you're saying.
I mean, the key word is accessibility, so that's what.
Oh, well, okay, so we don't need the programmatic piece of access as much in parks, trails, and open space, do we? Is that more relevant toward classes and gyms?
It applies to both. It applies to programs as well as facilities, indoor facilities and outdoors. So it definitely applies to parks, trails, and open space. So, for example, if we're distributing park activities, we're enhancing comfort with the shade and the bathrooms and the water fountains, we're allowing dog access, we're integrating nature, but we have removed improving access to the full range of opportunities, then we're...
Maybe we need 7 choices. I mean...
I don't know, I really could go back to the description of number 3, and if we're talking about comfort and welcoming, it really seems that that is where it needs to be in the description. I don't, it's not a separate thing, it's part of comfort and welcoming.
Well, would you be happy with improvements may include access, creating a sense of arrival? So put access before creating a sense of arrival?
Well, I want it in the title, is what I'm saying, because when I was going through the survey, and I was pretending to be a normal person going through the survey, I wasn't going to study each paragraph, memorize each paragraph, but when I'm ranking and putting my dollars into the buckets, at that point I'm looking at the title, and, the dog people look for the dog word. The accessibility people look for the access word.
I know, I hear you, and that's why I was a little afraid with the garden, we don't really have gardening reference, but we have to know it's under activities.
Mm-hmm.
I was questioning that in the survey, but I see your point.
I think it
So
could...
access to the full range of recreation opportunities isn't inclusive of that? That's what I keep coming back to.
I'm sorry, what number?
I'm sorry, number 9.
Number 9. Well, we
So you have
eliminated
access
number
in
9
number
from
9.
group 1. So that's what I'm saying, the word was there, and then
Oh, I see.
we eliminated
We
it.
put
So
it back.
I really think that it would fit nicely with the description of number 3. If comfort and welcoming doesn't mean accessible, I don't know what does. I think it's a given at this point, and we shouldn't shy away from saying it because it's going to harm anybody. If anything, it makes things more comfortable and welcoming.
Well, I just don't want to sell access short because those things are automatically going to be accessible. That's not an issue. When you put in a bathroom and a drinking fountain, it by definition is accessible. So it's a very narrow universe. Like, I mean, if that's what,
Well,
because,
Yeah.
but you're saying, what you're saying is you want to, you're not just, when you put in the word access to number 3, are you talking about only the bathroom and the drinking fountain and the benches? Or,
No.
It's
It's
a
just
term that applies to
everything.
the park space, and you say, is this park
Okay.
space accessible?
What about, I have a suggestion, I don't know if it works or not, but if access is added to number 5, increasing the variety and access of things to do in existing parks,
how about,
because that was removed.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I didn't think of adding it to number 5, but yeah, I think that could work.
You've got already in there ages and abilities.
Like I said, it's just a keyword. Dog people look for dogs. Sports field looks for sports fields. Theater looks for theater. So yeah, that's another way of saying it. But I just
It's-
don't want it left off of these groupings as if it's not important in parks and open space, but we're going to handle it in programming, or we're going to handle it,
it's
like one.
stronger if it goes into number 5, I think, than number 3.
Yeah.
It can
Yeah.
get more
Yeah, I think
bang for the word because it relates to more things if we can get it into number 5.
Yeah.
I would just caution though that the intent of 9 is, also includes things like language and financial barriers. So 9, it was intended as its own item to be, removing barriers and increasing all types of access, not just about outdoor spaces or programming. So I think if you do, merging it, you will lose a little bit of that. I would say, or I would ask you if you're open to having 7 items under.
Well, I
Some
haven't
of
done
these,
the hash table, but are you putting each of the areas in 2 out of the 3?
Oh, good question.
Is that kind of how it's working out? Because
No. I don't,
No, it doesn't work out that way.
no.
For
I
example,
certainly is
No,
not
'cause-
calculated to be that way.
yeah.
I think number 5, do we like number 5? It's just so, like, all-encompassing. I don't know.
Say, Rob, how did you have it added to number 5 again?
Increasing the variety and access of things to do in existing parks for all ages and abilities. So it's just adding the word accessibility or access.
I think that works.
So then are we taking number 9 off the list of 12?
No,
Or you're
no.
adding access to number 5.
We're adding access to number 5, not, yeah.
But we're taking 9 off of the first element.
No. Oh, we already had that, yeah.
Well, out of the first 2.
First 2.
First 2, right.
Yeah.
And adding the word access back.
Yeah, so I think that works
Okay.
really well.
Adding it back, was it in there originally? Or?
Oh, no, it was not adding it back. Adding it,
Okay.
yes. That makes sense. I thought you were proposing eliminating number 9. Okay,
so we're changing the title of number 5?
yes.
And what's
To
the new
include
title going to be?
access.
For-
Leaving number 9 as is, right?
So what's the new title for number 5?
Increasing the variety and access of things to do in existing parks for all ages and abilities.
Variety of and access to.
Or do we have to switch it? Do you think that sounds awkward? It should be.
I think we should just leave it what Rob said.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I think you could also flip it, access to and variety of would be fine, but I think either way it's okay.
Increase the variety and accessibility of things to do, and then you have matching word tenses.
Variety and
Yeah.
accessibility.
There you go.
That's more parallel language.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seems better. Accessibility.
Do you have Okay, I'm digesting this, 1 second. So in the 3 sets, 5 appears in the first one and the second one, and 9 appears in the third one. 9 is really a programming accessibility, and 5 is for recreation facilities and parks. I'm happy with that. Any other comments people have? Deirdre, do you have any comments?
No.
Jen, are you tapped out?
Yeah.
Okay. Your ball.
Okay.
I think they were the 2 things that we wanted to get to today. It might be helpful to have the ad hoc committee do one last review of the survey, because there was just a lot of comments before we actually, go live with it, if that would be okay, over the next week.
Target live date is when?
Next Wednesday. So we can get you a redlined version 2 of the online survey for that meeting.
You probably already covered this, but how are we advertising this?
Similar, exactly the same as we did for the last online survey, so it'll go out to our mailing list. It'll go out through the city's social media and newsletter. I forget exactly. And then we'll also
And
send it to our stakeholder advisory group and ask them to forward it on, send it to you folks and ask you to forward it on.
And we'll go out to the neighborhoods and.
Yes, they're on that list.
And the next doors, and schools can get it.
It should be through the stakeholder advisory group.
If you have, how we're getting it to schools, is that covered on?
I don't know that we have direct access to the PTA list, but someone on our stakeholder advisory group has offered to forward it. I don't know.
Oh,
I can help you with that, too.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely should get
I
it through the
can help you
schools.
with that.
Okay, great.
And do we have that same protection to look at the electronic
address?
address to figure out if multiples are being submitted?
We do, yeah. We'll have a record of that.
And there's a little confusion over the last survey. Are you hoping that multiple ages within the family are doing this? So mother, father, children, each
Yeah.
submitting one?
Absolutely, if they're all interested.
Okay.
But if they only have one email address,
Your IP address will show up more than once, yeah.
So you need to do it from each one has to do it from their own computer?
As long as they use, it says your name, as long as they use different names, I think.
well, they could be
no,
making up
that's,
names.
you don't put your name.
That's
your name
that's-
doesn't go
no,
in
that's
the survey,
optional.
which is
That's
good.
not
Optional, oh,
Yeah,
shoot.
that's to be added to the list.
It's pure, yeah, and you don't require an email address, which means that you're just looking at IP.
Is that written in the directions? I remember a lot of people in my neighborhood were really confused about that, and they were all asking me,
Oh,
what
really?
should we do? Do we need to try to make that explicit, or is it written anywhere that it's okay to do it that way?
We can indicate
Or
that.
do we want to leave it open? I don't know everyone's feeling. I had people coming up to me and saying, can my daughter do it? I've already done it. And I didn't even know what the answer was, actually.
And we have a little blurb at the end, please help us reach as many of your friends, neighbors, and coworkers, but we can make that upfront, like,
Family members?
yeah.
The tricky thing about using a family all having the same email address is if they,
IP address? Do you mean IP or do you mean email?
I don't have any idea, if they're both going to use the same computer,
That's the
Okay.
then, then if they have the same answers,
That's what raises a red
coincidentally,
flag.
they may get thrown out.
If
Right?
they had exactly the same answers for every question, that would raise a red flag for us.
But if they didn't,
Yeah, so if there were 4
maybe
people,
can they just put a note in the final box?
I mean, if it's one
They-
person sending in 5 different things with slightly different answers, their attention to, detail on this is impressive. And
Maybe
they have
their
they
pretty much time on their
perseverance is
hands.
high, yeah.
If they think that strongly about it, maybe they deserve extra weight.
They should be on the commission.
So
And they
does
should plan
our
that.
commission, so we all feel like mother, father, or parents?
I don't care.
It just shouldn't matter. It's like
Right.
I know
more
my son
voices.
would not
that-
agree with my choices, so.
Yeah, it'd be highly unlikely that they would all match, first
Right.
of all. Unless you're doing it for your infant child on their behalf.
Let's not try to solve those corner cases right now.
Yes, I agree.
I have one last question.
Sure.
And that is about the community prioritization process then includes this workshop, which will be advertised, how we discussed, and the survey. And what about this stakeholders prioritization process? How does that work?
They will be doing a similar exercise, and we were talking earlier today about the date. One option is to have them meet earlier in the day or immediately before the community workshop. But Rob had a question whether they would want, to reflect on what we heard at the workshops and build on that, or what the appropriate timing will be. So we're still discussing that.
So they will want to have, I presume, a more robust discussion than would be allowed
More
in the
detailed.
survey
Yeah.
or would necessarily happen in the regular community workshop. So you're going to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah, that's the intent,
I would think you would want the results of the survey
to present to
to be
them.
presented then,
Yeah.
and say, this is the results. What are your comments on this? Last time what we did was, we went through and we had a marker and we wrote down all the suggestions. And all it was is just collecting of ideas.
Yeah.
What is the purpose of the next workshop? This is for the stakeholders.
For the stakeholders, it is the same intent as what we just went through with this online and what we'll do with the workshop, but what Commissioner Hatterley is suggesting is probably more detail. And so part of that maybe, here's what we heard from the survey and in our workshop.
So the order is, we're gonna do the electronic questionnaire. We're gonna close that, and then we will go to the workshop.
There'll be a little overlap.
Okay, people then will be able to get the same input at that workshop.
That's right.
We will compile those results from the workshop and the online survey and present those at the stakeholders meeting. And what is the purpose of the stakeholders meeting? Is to get their feedback, is to get a specific list? Is it just a general kvetch fest and they can,
Hopefully not.
they can just tell their ideas and we're just collecting ideas, or are we trying to achieve some specific goal?
We're trying to get at their prioritization, again, with limited resources and these areas of focus. And it's more challenging because each of them was chosen because they represent one or more interest groups, so we probably know what some of their answers are going to be. But replicating the prioritization weighting exercise with them and then figuring out how to do it in a way that has a little more meat on the bones. So something between what we had, discussed with the commission and what we're putting out to the general public.
Because last time there was a lot of cooks there. And
It's a big group.
a lot of people were able to say a sentence and that was it.
Yeah.
So if I were on the stakeholders group, I would want to comment on this survey before it goes out. Because my interest would be in making sure that all the bases are covered in one way or another, just like our interests
Well,
are that way as well.
I think my view on this is the stakeholders group should not be only looking at the areas of focus, because they have a deeper understanding and appreciation of parks and recreation and the issues, right? The areas of focus is really for the general public, maybe the new person that's just starting to look at the plan and what we're doing here. So Associated was telling Ellie about the different tiers of analysis. This is the deepest analysis here with the commission and the staff. Really, in the matrix, are really getting a good. The stakeholders group is sort of the second tier, and they have a pretty good understanding of that matrix. Actually, I think they will have, and we should talk about that and the principles and the areas of focus. And the workshop should be designed differently for that stakeholder group.
I agree
Much
with
deeper conversation there. And it can't just be ideas at this point. It needs to be a focused conversation about trade-offs, about different ways we could invest in the parks and recreation system. And then it still comes up to us and the commission after that to then further synthesize that information from those tiers to come up with a final plan.
I'm just concerned there's going to be a lot of long-winded people at that stakeholders workshop.
Yeah, a lot of them come with a specific interest. We really need to design that thoughtfully and ask people to think outside of their particular area of interest. I don't think, at least I haven't seen a plan for the stakeholder group.
But are you
meeting.
asking or expecting them to speak outside of their interest, or if they're
Yeah.
there for stakeholders? I thought their whole point was to represent the sports field people and the dog people and so forth.
Well, we do want to hear that, but we want them to think beyond their area of interest. Think about the person sitting next to them that cares about tennis courts or dog parks or other things, that there is really a balancing of thinking, because otherwise we just hear, a very focused, interest from 25 different people, and that's not necessarily.
25 different interests, or you're
Yeah, I mean, really.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll have the seniors saying the senior piece. And what we're trying to, I think, look at as we get closer to developing and putting the plan together is where is there overlap and themes and emphasis that we could solve more than one problem by investing in a certain way. Where we've got field users thinking about, dog exercise, and senior folks thinking about what the teens are interested in, and
And is there
Yeah.
only one stakeholders meeting left?
I think there's two left.
There's a third one that will essentially be a review of the draft plan.
So maybe, I'm wondering I'm wondering how sensible it is to wait for the survey and then share that with them. I'm not sure that's the most efficient use of their time, because then they'll get bogged down in what the results of the survey were. You might want to just talk about the principles
Could
and the
do, yeah.
criteria and the
I
process,
agree
and
with
then
that.
come back around at
That's
the
not a bad
next
idea.
stage with this is what we're hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That may-
agree.
Because I'm worried about becoming a zoo, so if we don't present the results, I think it could be a little less of a zoo. Still could be a zoo, but
Well,
a few
and-
less animals.
And their results feed in too. There's
Right.
multiple pathways
Right.
in.
That's
They're
right.
one of the
Right.
pathways in.
Right.
So they don't have to react extremely a lot to this pathway. They have their own voice as a group.
Well, I mean, I guess the question is, do we feel from that initial stakeholders meeting that those views are represented in this thinking that we've got so far in here? I mean, we had, a couple of us were at that first stakeholders meeting, and from those notes, did we say, oh my God, we forgot the Girl Scout house, or,
Well, I think the areas of focus are intended to be, and I think that was when, how we've been vetting them, hopefully, is are they high level and inclusive enough that any suggestion that would come out of this commission or out of the stakeholders group would fit into one of those 12 areas. That's what those are designed to do, is to be inclusive.
yeah, I think they are.
Have we gone back and reviewed the whiteboard notes or whatever and we're convinced that what we have here does not omit any of those areas?
We did look at them when we were initially drafting these. I haven't done it more recently than that, but we can do so.
And that's where the areas
That's-
focus largely came from.
Yeah.
It's from all of those 11, 12 different sources of data. Yeah.
Yeah, because my understanding, I was at that first meeting too, and I believe Darren Anderson was the one who wrote up the notes, is that right? From the first, and he gave everyone who was at that meeting an electronic copy, is that correct?
It
And
was
so
one of
you
the
should-
meetings, I don't remember which
Yeah,
one.
you're jogging my memory. We definitely have a summary of that, and I believe Darren did augment those notes. It's been a while though. But yeah, that was one of the things we looked at when drafting these categories, if you will.
So if we don't need the survey results by the time we have the stakeholders meeting,
Right.
then we can schedule them independently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can. Although, I think it would be helpful for us as the organizers and maybe even the commission to have some of that information when we have the meeting with the stakeholders, even if we're not presenting the results. Just be good. Maybe we have a little more thoughtful questions even than we would have otherwise if we have that data.
That's a good point.
I'm trying to think from the point of view of the stakeholders, so they'll know we've done the survey because they're getting notified.
And they can participate in the
And they want to
survey.
participate, and they want to advertise it to their constituency to participate. So they're going to be well aware of this survey when they show up in a meeting, whether we give them results or not.
Correct.
So what is it we're asking them at that meeting? We're not going to be asking them, do you think we did a good job on this survey? Exactly. They're going to have opinions. When they see this survey, all of our stakeholders are going to have opinions on how well we captured their thoughts. So ideally, I do think Commissioner Hetterly has a good point that ideally you would potentially allow them to see this before we send it out. But I don't know if that's just too,
It's a big group, right?
It's a big group and there were so many.
and it might be too messy.
I
And
think it will be, yeah.
so what we need to do is we need to capture whether they thought we did a good job on this after the fact even, they should be able to give their viewpoints on that.
Well, I think Ellie can review it. I mean, you go down the list of stakeholders and you have somebody on there for sports fields and somebody on there for dogs, and you're gonna be able to cross-check it, and if you do find an omission, I don't think you are, but I think it's more straightforward to have you do a cross-check than to open this up to a review by
That would be, yeah,
50
pretty
or
overwhelming.
whatever people it was,
Yeah.
with all the wordsmithing and all the preferences.
I agree, I think it would be a disaster to have them design the survey with us.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right, well, we can
my
cross-check.
point is only that they're gonna want to have something at
Higher
a
level. For more
bigger
detail.
level,
Yeah.
more
I agree.
in-depth level than what the regular workshop is gonna have. And we should be sure to provide them that and give them opportunities
Yeah.
to weigh in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Okay.
I'm gonna go through some schedule.
Yes.
We're planning to open it on 8/26, that's our target date.
Correct.
And how long are we keeping that open?
Through end of September, 30th.
9:30. And then the workshop, do we have a rough idea of when that's gonna be?
September 21st is the tentative date,
Which one?
20
September 21st.
which, by the way, isn't that that's a Monday?
Monday.
That's not a good day.
It's not generally a good day.
Okay. And then the stakeholder meeting, we think now is gonna be after that, so that would be mid-October?
I don't know if it needs to be that far out. You know, within a week or two of the workshop, I think would be fine.
Well,
No?
Well, if you
about
wanted
the
us,
survey results, it'll take us a
yeah,
little
if you
bit of
wanted
time.
the staff to be able to look at the survey results, then it would have to be after 9:30.
Right, because the survey's still open a week after the workshop. Okay, I get you.
Okay, so early October for the stakeholder,
Mm-hmm.
early October. And then the draft report, what are we shooting for that?
It's end of the year,
Yeah.
or
Winter.
end of the calendar year.
End of the calendar year, okay. And then in January, we would have another stakeholder review of that draft.
Yeah,
We would have a broad review of that draft.
January, February.
Okay.
And then
January.
go to the other commissions as well.
And that'll be our 2-year mark working on this. Just,
Okay. And are there any other hoops? I mean, if we have the draft, obviously there's a lot of work to do, but is there any more community interaction? Are you meeting with other groups at all, or?
There's a council work session on August 31st.
Which date?
August 31st,
Which year?
in 2 weeks.
So that is a Monday,
Yeah.
August 31st.
So that's a big one.
What is gonna be covered there?
Yeah.
That's pretty.
It is an update to the process, since it's been a while since we were in front of that group, and then focusing largely on the principles and the policy level direction setting and getting their buy-in on those, and then a preview of the community workshop prioritization exercise and the criteria. So Rob and Ryan and Peter and I have all been working on what that looks like, so.
so we have an update report for the council, which will go out next week, an update report. And yeah, it'd be great if some of the commissioners could be there, actually.
That's also a good time to put up a nice big slide. Here's where you go to do the survey.
Yes.
So people who are watching
Right.
at home can see that.
Yes, right.
That's
People in the audience, you can even put little flyers where the agenda items are on
Yeah.
that table. You know, take one home and this is where you need to log in.
That's a great idea.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
We made a lot of progress.
Yeah,
I think this is coming along.
And we outlasted your computer.
just barely.
When I got here, it said it had 5 hours left, so I'm glad that, didn't have to test that. Thank you all.
Okay. We move on to the next. Next is going to be other ad hoc committee and liaison updates. Does anyone have any input? We have community gardens that we penciled in for next month.
Okay.
I have a question on that. I want to know, we're holding off on community gardens because Darren Anderson is having a meeting on some of the questions that have come up. Does anyone know when that meeting is taking place? August So it's taking place on August 25th? Okay, great.
Next Wednesday.
August 26th, okay, thank you.
Is that a public meeting, or is that?
No,
That's
it's not.
okay, that's just
But
internal.
it impact, I just needed to know in case we're gonna, I think our ad hoc should actually meet with Darren
Mhm.
after that meeting, but before we present to our commission, because someone has to consider what
Process.
report we're using.
And are you back for the regular September meeting?
Oh, yeah, I get back on August 31st.
Oh, August 31st, okay.
So I'd just like to schedule that meeting with Darren. I'll talk to Commissioner
Okay.
Ashland. She'll help out to make sure we get that after that August 26th meeting.
Okay.
But it's possible that there'd be more work to do after that.
Exactly, and we need to get it done in time for the packet for the September meeting.
Yeah. I'm reluctant to commit to having it on next month. We'll have to see, we'll have to evaluate how the meeting goes, and Darren wants more time.
Well, that will give us a full month. Since he's having the meeting on August 26th, at least we have a full month
Yeah.
until the following meeting.
Our goal is to get it in, but
Right.
just be careful that there may be other issues going on. So.
Right.
Other ad hoc committee updates, is that?
I think we might, well, actually, we don't have any updates on the website, but we may want to be presenting next month. So that's agenda item. The dog ad hoc, we did have a community meeting on that. I think there were 80 to 100 people there. I think it was a big turnout, and it was very civilized. Darren did a great job soliciting a lot of comments, and we'll update on that as well. Maybe next month, maybe the month after. We're having a meeting with Darren next week to circle back around
Did you
on
have
some
all
other issues.
pro-dog participants, or did you have some anti?
We had a pretty balanced group,
Oh, really?
yeah.
The dog owners were encouraged to bring their animals, and I told them that I checked, they're not allowed, other than a service dog, to have dogs in the Lucy Stern ballroom, so they had to leave their little friends at home, sadly. But I didn't want them to,
But the child owners also showed up
the
to
child owners.
express their position.
Oh,
Good, so it's
yeah.
So it
balanced.
was
Can you,
balanced.
can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about next steps? Like, where is
We're
this
gonna do that
going?
next month when we
So you
have it on the agenda.
Okay, great. So you will get it on next month, is what you're saying?
We're meeting with Darren next week, and we'll determine then whether we'll be able to do all the circling back we need to do in order to present next month.
Okay.
Abby's been traveling quite a bit, so it's
Got it.
challenging to schedule.
How about the budget process? Last year when did we start meetings, guys, last year?
For CIP budgets?
CIP.
Not operating budget?
For the, CIPs, I'm
I
sorry.
think it was July, actually, as I recall.
So,
We're probably at the point of coming together again on the capital budget.
yeah.
That would be good to do.
Do you know when that has to be submitted? When,
We haven't received a request yet from Office of Management and Budget. Hasn't been but typically, we submit things in November, that time range. But we got a head start on it, and it was helpful last year to do that.
We'll have a similar problem in that we're still prioritizing
Yeah,
for Parks and Recs.
yeah. Getting closer though.
Yeah.
I'm happy to set up that meeting. Is it still the same ad hoc committee then?
I'm happy to still doing
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Are you
It
still-
can be unless somebody else wants on, sure.
Okay. Initiate a meeting then.
And what is the timeline for the new members? When do
Yeah.
the outgoing members end?
December.
October.
No, it's
December.
October. We got an
It's
email,
October.
we got an email.
Next year it's December. This year it's
Because
October.
I checked with the city clerk about a month ago, and she said December.
Yeah, my
I
email-
got-
David Carnahan says it's October.
I got
Yeah.
an email from Carnahan
Me
saying
too.
October.
October 31st, yeah.
Yeah, and the council has scheduled, I think, on their longer-term schedule, interviews for new commissioners and so on in September, I think, so.
Yeah, I heard, someone told
Yeah.
me the deadline for submission of applications might be August 26th, is that right?
That's about right, yeah.
And
Excuse me, does that mean that those of us who are coming up to term and not reapplying, do we plan to attend the October commission meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
And what happens if the council is slow at selecting? Do they get bridged, or do we?
Right, we ask if they will continue to attend until someone's appointed.
And they still have full authority of voting rights and, okay.
You can check out, but you can never leave.
Right.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Rob, do you have any comments or announcements?
The council's back in session. I'm surprised to see Councilmember Filseth here, because they had a long marathon meeting.
We met only today.
They went late into the night, last night, so, but they're back, and so they had a lot on the agenda, and we had a lot of things on the consent calendar too. So we had some park improvement ordinances for the batting cages, and Monroe Park and Bixby Park all went through last night with council approval, so that's exciting. And then the 31st is the next meeting where we have things on the agenda for council. We have the study session, and also the discussion of the 7.7 acres at Foothills Park. And the commission spent a lot of time on that, and the staff recommendation that we hold off on doing anything significant there until the hydrology study is complete. And that's the primary recommendation. And we have all the background of the commission work and the community meetings around that. But that's an action discussion item on the 31st. So you may be interested in participating. It would be good to have a commissioner there to not necessarily speak to it, but because the staff report references the commission and the commission's point of view, the council may have a question for the commission. So the chair can decide who can be there or who can be there for that.
So you or Darren?
Me, Darren and I will be there presenting, and the council will be discussing the item. But it'll be, like I said,
My guess is that if you and Darren are presenting it, they will not have any questions for us. I think you'll be able to handle anything.
Probably not. I don't know. It's one of those topics that may, I think there are some different opinions on council about the 7.7 acres. Last time that they did talk about it, there seemed like there was some interest to open it up and allow people to get in there. And staff's not recommending that, so it'd be interesting to see how they respond. I would find it helpful if you could be there, Keith, or have someone there.
Yeah. I certainly would try to be there.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I would recommend that if people are interested, they should come.
Which
Good.
day was it?
August 31st. Council meeting for the 7.7 acres.
Oh, that's also the same as the,
Master plan.
yeah, master plan.
Oh, yeah. So we'll have two things to talk about.
So other than that,
Darren talked a few months ago about the water conservation. How's the city doing? Are we meeting our goals?
Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. We're spending a lot of time on that. We've got data for 1 month, July, and we just narrowly reached the target of 34% reduction. So,
And that's
We're happy
for
with
the city government, or is that for the city as a whole?
city as a whole,
Okay.
right?
How is
And
city government doing on its, the parks and?
They're
very
doing
well.
I went to that
Yeah.
meeting, the water conservation meeting that was at Mitchell Park.
Right.
It was very well run.
Yeah.
They gave a lot of information
So
to
working.
the 30 of us that were in the room. Yeah, it was good.
A lot of work. We're working closely with utilities and public works on that plan, and you'll start to see the impacts if you haven't already. That some of the grass is going, brown or dying off a little bit in those areas that are not heavily used, and you'll see more of that as we go on. As we get further along in the year and have better data about how we're doing, you know, we may have more flexibility in terms of the water use and adjust the plan a little bit here and there. But at this point, we just have 1 month of data.
Is the city gonna start enforcement soon?
I don't know a lot about the enforcement strategy and plan for, you know, for people that are not doing their part.
You wouldn't have to walk far from your office to see problems.
You're seeing people.
I drove by there yesterday, the house across the street was spraying about noon on their lawn, so.
Oh, is that right?
They actually have a phone number you can call and
Yeah.
and rat them out.
Actually, I did hear that a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, people care a lot, and they make the calls, and I'm just not sure what, you know, we're not going out and ticketing people or anything at this point. But
Okay. So agenda for next month, what do we have on that?
well, the Junior Museum and Zoo may come back. We're not sure yet. The team are working hard on the feedback they received last time they were here. I'm not sure they'll be ready in September, but they said they might be. We'll have the Parks, Trails, Open Space Master Plan, and then the 2 additional that we know of are the community gardens ad hoc and perhaps the dog exercise area ad hoc committee.
And the website ad hoc,
What's that?
the website update.
Okay, website update, yeah.
I think the interpretive center too, Public Works.
Oh, are they ready for September? They have to
They
remember that.
postponed it, so for
See, that's,
September's
it's
meeting.
starting to get a little
This
busy.
is the signage. And Deirdre and Stacy, you're still on that ad hoc, or was that disbanded?
I'm a little confused about what we're supposed to be doing. We thought that John Aiken was going to present to us on this. It had to do with the CIP for signs at the Interpretive Center and the idea of expanding it into the whole open space area was his vision.
Right.
But we haven't been able to hear about that yet, so it'd be,
I'm not sure that he's made much progress on that, other than, you know, that I think it is the right way to do signage at the Baylands, is not to think about it piecemeal, but think about the whole preserve.
it relates to finances because the
Yeah.
CIP right now is not
50,
large enough to
yeah.
allow for that.
That's
So maybe we have to understand where that is in the pipeline.
Yeah, I'll check in with John on that, and maybe this comes up with our CIP ad hoc committee as well, because it's underfunded. I mean, really, the money in there is sufficient to replace the existing signage around the interpretive center only, and that's not really the way we want to do this. But
So you
Yeah.
think, so will you handle talking then
yeah,
to John Aiken?
I will.
Okay.
I did want to mention too, one thing, sorry, back to the announcements, is that the council, I think on the 31st, is also taking up the comprehensive plan goals discussion, of which the community services element, community services and facilities element, is one of the 2 elements being discussed that evening. So the study session on Parks Master Plan is 7.7 acres, plus the,
That's nice of them to combine it all
Yeah.
for us on that one night.
Yes.
yeah. So that's, the commission's done a lot of work on that element and provided a lot of feedback, so that might be of interest there too.
We had talked about getting a presentation about the cost of services study. Is anyone working on that?
No, we can't fit it next month anyway.
Yeah, but I think that that's probably gonna take some time anyway, so I'm trying to feed the pipeline here.
Okay.
If you want it, you have to ask for it 2 months ahead. I mean, eventually I want that to come back. I think that there's fertile ground for us to talk about that.
The city auditor, as part of their, and the city auditor reports to the council directly, one of their audits they're doing this year is on fees. And not just CSD fees, but fees generally, which just got started, so I don't know a whole lot about that, but I suspect it's going to relate to the cost of services study and the policy that the council adopted in the spring. So that might be of interest to the commission too.
Yeah.
Won't we have them both come together?
comments, suggestions, things? Okay. Adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I motion we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Still filming.